Hello, everyone. Welcome to this evening's OSRBC Authors Chat. We are so excited to be welcoming this evening Mila Finelli to chat with us about our January book, Mafia Target. This was the fourth book in her The Kings of Italy series, but she has had an exciting month launching her new series, New York State of Mafia, with her newest release, Empire of Temptation, on the 3rd. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So, couple just little ground rules, guys. We just, for sake of the recording, are going to ask people to kind of keep things on mute. If you have questions, put them in the chat. I'm going to have Megan, I'm going to check in with her a couple times through this and route the questions through her, just so we have a good, clean recording to post out. At the end, I probably will open up just because we're a small group and let people open ask questions, but and then we'll just kind of go from there. So Mila, you visited with us before as your alter ego, Joanna Shoup. So we wanted to switch out our fun questions to keep things interesting, and we decided we'd put a bit of a theme on them for you tonight, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. Um, in your mind, what's the sexiest foreign language for a hero to speak in a romance?
I mean, I'm partial, but I think it's Italian. Um, I do like Russian. I think Russian's pretty sexy. I think French is pretty sexy. Spanish, I mean, really any of the romance languages can be sexy. I don't know why I include Russian in that, but I'm partial to Italian.
I kind of thought you'd choose that, but all right. If you were to be kidnapped by a mafia dom, who would you want to take with you on this adventure? It's kind of a little bit of our spin of
Who would
our
I want to take? Who would I want to take with me?
mhm. Instead of our hostage writers retreat question, we wanted to give you a little bit of a spin off on this. Who are you going to put in a hostage situation with a mafia dom with you?
I mean, do I want to be kidnapped, or is this like this is a
You don't get a
terror
choice in the matter,
situation?
so you're being kidnapped by a mafia dom. Who of your writer friends are you taking with you on this?
Is this like I am really being kidnapped? If I'm really in trouble, I want my husband there because he is like Mr. Johnny on the spot, can literally get out of any jam, like great in a crisis. But if I want to be kidnapped, then he's probably not the best person to have around. Uh I don't know, maybe like a photographer. I mean, I don't know. I like to document the insanity. I don't know.
Fair enough. We didn't know how that question was going to go, but we were like, we're going to
I don't
try it.
know
We were
that
going to try. We were like, hmm.
it's a nonsense answer, I think, but it's a good question.
All right. As a reader, what is your favorite organized crime syndicate?
Oh, as a reader,
Mhm.
organized. Hmm. I'm partial probably to the Cosa Nostra because that's just what I feel like I know the best. But at least before I started writing what I write, which the syndicate that I write is called the 'Ndrangheta, which is actually the largest criminal syndicate, Italian criminal syndicate. It's bigger than the Cosa Nostra and bigger than the Camorra. It's all over Europe. They have a base in Toronto. I mean, they are really secretive, and they're really the ones that are out there like making the money and stuff. So um, I am a little partial to them as well.
Okay. And do you have a favorite mob movie or TV series?
Mm. Well, I sure love The Sopranos, um, but my family, I come from an Italian American family. we do watch The Godfather, like every Godfather 1 and Godfather 2 every Thanksgiving. So like that is, when our family is together and that's on the TV, like that is always on. I know those movies forwards and backwards.
Those are good. Those are classic. Now that you're working on your second Mafia series, have you discovered that you have a preferred method of torture or coercion that you'd like to include when you need to like turn the screws?
Um, I love like a good meat hook hang, like sort of like um a guy that's being, hung from the ceiling and is being worked over. I tend to use that a lot. Um, yeah, I like a meat locker.
Uh, okay, now we're gonna get serious. Um, we have to ask the obvious question. How did Mafia and the creation of Mila happen?
I read a lot of dark romance. I'm obviously a mafia fan. Just as far as like, the popular culture and movies and TVs and stuff. Um, I come from an Italian American family, so I feel like the Italy stuff, that's very real to me. Um, my grandfather was a lawyer, and may or may not have had some mob clients back in the day. So I just feel like that was all familiar ground for me. And I was always reading American set mafia romance, and I just kept thinking, God, like, don't people get it? It's like, yes, they're here, but they're also there, and like there is really sexy. So why hasn't somebody done that mashup? Like, why hasn't somebody actually set these in Italy? And then everyone kept telling me, I mean, Nisha Sharma, Sarah McLean, I kept telling me, you just have to write one of these. Like, you should be writing this. And so during the lockdown, when we all had lots of time, that's when I wrote the first book in the Kings of Italy series, which is Mafia Mistress. And I wrote that in like 45 days, which it usually takes me 4 months to write a book. So to write one in 45 days is like, for me, unheard of. But I kind of couldn't stop writing it because I loved it so much. And it just poured out of me. And I don't know, it just felt like, oh, okay. I did it as kind of a lark, thinking, can I do it? Um, and I was in a real rut with the Shoop stuff. Just felt like I was just, I was just in a real rut. I think I was trying to rewrite The Bride Goes Rogue for like the 19th billionth time, and I could not get that story right. And it's like I almost just needed to sort of reset my brain to like push out all the stuff that wasn't working, and I just did something fresh and I wrote this thing that I really loved. And it was like, oh, I can write. I get it. Like I can do this. And so I went back and I rewrote The Bride Goes Rogue. And I think after I wrote Mafia Mistress, and I think it made it better because I sort of took like what I learned from Mafia Mistress, and like a lot of Preston is there are notes of Mafia Mistress hero who is Fausto. There's a lot of Fausto in Preston. So that's a very long-winded answer to, I mean, but that's sort of how it all came to be. I mean, I was looking for something else to really just jog my brain and give me like another out.
So your identity as Mila was a secret at first. What was it like to manage that, and how do you see your two identities now?
Well, it actually really wasn't that hard because in the dark romance space, there are a lot of authors who don't have their faces out on social media or on their Amazon page. I mean, it's an icon or it's an illustration, or I just really felt like at first it really wasn't a hindrance. And I really wasn't sure how my publisher was going to take it. I was very late on a book. I was like running sort of behind on The Bride Goes Rogue. And I just didn't want to be like, hey, I know you were waiting on this thing, but, you know, I was actually doing this while I should have been doing, um, so I sort of wish that I just right from the jump had told everybody it was me, but that just it isn't the way it played out. There were other factors in the works, and I don't think it was really that big of a deal. And then the first book is a cliffhanger, so I didn't expect anything until I got the second part of the cliffhanger out, which is called Mafia Darling. And when Mafia Darling came out, that's when the duet sort of exploded on TikTok. And in retrospect, I kind of wish that I had shown my face on TikTok and maybe tried to ride that wave a little bit, but I can't do it all. It just didn't work out that way. And I really felt like for the historical stuff that it was better to keep it a secret for a while. So
So, something that I personally have just been very curious about is as your writing process changed as you've written these two series, or is your writing method the same no
feel like
matter
that's probably
what? Um, or is it just a matter of which characters are speaking to you at the moment? Go, like, because I mean, is it like today I'm this, and today I'm this, or and I write like this is this person and I write like this is this person, or is it just I'm still like I sit down and I still do this many words a day because you're very methodical of how you write when you're writing historical, or is your method and process just a completely different beast when you're writing the Mafia?
No, it's pretty much the same. I can really only work on one project at a time. Occasionally I will work on two, and and it used to be that I would sit down in the morning and I would do shoot, and then in the afternoon when I this is when I still worked part-time. In the afternoon I would come home from work and I would write, Finelli. Then went to work full time, and it just like really threw everything out of whack. Um, and I really can only work on pretty much one thing at a time, which has really slowed down my productivity. Um, and I do find that they have sort of bled into each other a little bit, like especially with the last two books in the Fifth Avenue Rebels series, The Bride Goes Rogue and The Duke Gets Even. I really tried to, I think the heat level of Finelli sort of bled into that heat level of Shoop, for good or for bad. And I sort of expected my editor to say, like, you're really like, this is this is a little much, but she didn't. So that, it is what it is. But the writing process is about the same. It's just a lot slower. So
That's fair. I mean, I just didn't know if you had to like really get very like I don't know what the word I'm looking for, segment yourself in like little boxes or not. And I was just really curious about that, how that works as a creative person. Um, but going into another genre where you didn't have the giant pool of previously built up knowledge, did you have to change the way you did your research?
um yes. Um I feel like with the historicals, I have of my brain. I have the vernacular, I have the speech patterns, I have the knowledge of like the world, that what the 19th century in America was like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So to write contemporary, there were a lot of times where I went, the heroines that I write are young. Um, and I don't want to, um, and I'm not, full disclosure. So I never wanted to have a younger reader read it and say, oh my God, you can tell this is written by like some perimenopausal, like old woman, So I have in the past, like, asked my daughters, like, would you use this word, or would you say this phrase, or would so I have like a little bit picked up things from them. um my 16-year-old, I drive around in the car all the time because she doesn't have her license yet. In Jersey, you can't get it till you're 17. Um so I mean, I hear, like today we were in the car, and she said something made her MM. And I said, "What's that?" And she goes, "Mad Moody." And I was like, "Oh, okay, sorry." Like there's just always some kind of like slang or something that, I don't I try not to fill the books with slang, but um I do try to imagine that I'm 19 and not, or 20 and not the age that I am.
I, completely understandable.
Yeah. So that's the research, is like, how people interact, how people, people that date, like people that are that age, like how do they interact? What are they, where do they go? What do they do? So I use a lot of stuff from my daughters.
Um, the mafia genre is kind of known for being a little banana pants. Is it fun to get to write things that are a little bit more off the wall?
So fun. That's so fun. That's part of like what brought me joy in writing again, I think, because I had gotten in such a rut with the Shoop stuff that Finelli really gave me joy. Um, and just, and especially when no one knew it was me, it was like I was really free to just like be as dirty as I wanted, as explicit as I wanted, as crazy as I wanted. Um, and uh it really, for me, been a lot of fun.
So, even though Mafia is more bananas, you've managed to bring a balance of feminist ideas into the genre, in a world where there's feminism doesn't really exist. Can you tell us about how you go about doing that? Because um, in a lot of these books, not yours, but in the genre, a lot of times you get a lot of misogyny. You get a lot of those things where when we read yours, I mean, there's some because I mean, it is mafia, but there is still, you get the sensibilities that someone who has deep feminist sentiments is writing them.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of a fictionalized world, right? I mean, it allows me to do that. I like to think that some of the women pulled into this world have agency. Um, Even though that's in reality, that is probably not the case. Especially in the Ndrangheta, they pretty much only marry cousins because they are so insular that it's family. Like that's why we don't know who they are, because it's like you can only get in if you are related to another member. So it's like everybody sort of intermarries and like they stick together. So I mean that's a real drag. Like nobody wants to read that. So I mean I don't even want to think about that. But there are stories. There are a couple things that I read that have really influenced the Finelli stuff. female women who were married to the Don, and their husband went off to prison, and they now run everything. Now that he's in prison, so the wife runs everything, and they are known as La Donna, um, which is the female equivalent of the Don. So the other thing that gave me like a little, there are women in this world that have a little bit of power. Um, I'm not saying they came to it willingly, and I'm not saying it's great. I mean, they're criminals, but they have power. The other thing was that there was a Don whose, I want to say it was a nephew, was gay and performed in drag in a nightclub. And they released him from the family with no, and because they are very misogynistic, and anyone who is, not doesn't have the same mindset is viewed as a threat. And so anybody who is gay is really, they usually murder those people. I mean, those people are not allowed to live. So I did find recently one family who let this gay performer go. And it was like they made it known, this person is no longer a member of our family, and we expect that there will be no retaliation, and that he will be allowed to live and thrive and be out in the world, and he no longer has anything to do with our family. So those were sort of like reading those stories, and especially the one about the family member who was gay and released from the family, that sort of influenced Mafia Target a lot.
Okay. So,
But just to be clear, it is a terrible. I mean, these people are terrible in real life, and they do terrible things. Terrible means, are these good people?
yeah. So that kind of leads into the next question that we had. At what point did you know that The Kings of Italy was going to be a full series versus just a duology? And when did you know you were going to give Giulio his own HEA?
So I never really planned for anything beside the first two books. And I really never planned more than one, because I was writing Mafia Mistress, and it just got to be too long. I think I was at like 91,000 words, and I hadn't even written the hero's redemption, which is like the whole point of, that was the whole point of the story, and I hadn't even gotten there yet. So I knew it had to be a duology, which I hated to do because I'm not a big cliffhanger fan, and I get it. I know why readers don't like it either. So I had to make it two books, and I only really planned for it to be two books. And then they sort of took off, and I was like, well, I guess I should write more. And Enzo was the next logical choice because he's the villain of the duology, and I love a villain. So I wrote Enzo, and as these books were being read, I mean, I just got so many messages about Giulio, so many that were like, please, please, please give him a story, please. Um, and I had never written MM before, though I've read a ton of MM. Um, and I just thought, well, I mean, it really would be a cool story, especially if I could pair him with Alessio. Now I'm interested. How do I make that work? So that's sort of how that happened.
Well, you walked straight into the next question. So, Mafia Target was your first MM. What
Hmm.
challenges did that present to you as a writer?
So it's mostly pronoun stuff where you have to really get creative about how you Now these are written in first person, so it's not as tricky as it would be in third person, but you know, I didn't I didn't find anything like I said, I've read a lot of MM. Um, I didn't really the trickiest thing was the timeline, making shoving the timeline into what I had already written for like the first three books because they're so interconnected that my editor was like, can you please start keeping a master timeline of everything that's happened? And so I did. I wrote, I have this huge Excel spreadsheet that's like month by month what's happening in all of these stories because it got so complicated. So shoving the target story into what had already been written in the other books is what was difficult. It had nothing to do with the two of them. They were a lot of fun to write and easy.
So you walked again straight into the next question. So the botched assassination attempt,
Mhm.
it was such an interesting insta infatuation moment for Licio. Was that planned or a clever add-in later on? And I think you kind of answered that, but
Yeah, that's an add-in. I mean, um I didn't bring in Alessio, I don't think, until Mafia Madman. I think it's Enzo that sort of floats the idea that there is this sniper that, is like un never misses. I think it's in Mafia Madman that is floated. And so then, oh, you know what? You know where this came from? I had just forgotten until just now. So, and we binge watched Killing Eve like right as I was, I think, writing Mafia Madman. And if you haven't seen it, it's a female assassin and she worked for the CIA? I don't remember. She's or M6. Somebody out there is like screaming at me that I'm ruining this, but it's two women and they play like this kind of cat or mouse cat, will they or won't they, and the assassin is in love with this agent and the agent is, it is so good. That whole series is so good. And my husband and I binge watched the whole thing. So when I was sitting down to think about that book, and it was like, well, I've got Julio on the run, and just try to put the pieces together. My husband was like, it needs to be Killing Eve. That's what you should be doing. And I was like, oh, of course, that's what I have to be doing. So that is sort of like the germ of the idea is Killing Eve.
so in the series, there are two characters that really stand out as having evolutionary character arcs, Fausto and Giulio. Giulio, in that he starts out in Mafia Mistress and trying to do everything possible to escape being in organized crime so that he can be his authentic self, to eventually becoming this Don that he was meant to be in his own right. And then Fausto as having this whole arc that builds him into becoming the type of family-oriented man that is understanding of his son being gay. Can you talk about your thought processes in building out these arcs for this father and son?
Well, so that's the trick, right? Fausto's a former hero. He's beloved by the readers of the series. So for him to turn his back on his son and not come to some sort of understanding of what it means to be gay and accepting Julio for who he is. I mean, we we had to get there. There had to be the point where, Fausto accepted it. Um, because, in the in the duet, he basically turns Julia loose. I mean, um, you know, Faustus, you're killing him by keeping him in this life that he does not want. Like you have to let him go to save him, for his own, sort of mental health and well-being. And I know that's hard for you, but you know, you have we're like, she was pregnant. She's like, listen, I have to know that you're going to put the kids first. Like, what's wrong with you? So anyway, so she convinces him to let Julio go, and to leave. And um, so in Mafia Target, what does that mean? Like, what? So we had to see, like, what does that mean? Is 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 Fausto, has he turned his back on him, or does he come visit? Does he, so it was just a continuation of sort of where I saw their relationship as father and son going. Because I couldn't stand the idea that, like, Julio would really never go back home again, would never see his family, would never see his nieces and nephews, or, so all of that was just, it just felt like selfish on my part, that I really wanted all that to happen. So I knew I had to get there.
Um,
Did I answer the
yeah,
question?
no, you did.
Like,
Very much so.
okay, okay.
Um, when did you decide that Mafia Devil had to be told?
I actually was wrote it for an anthology that I was in, and the anthology didn't happen. It was a like a book box anthology, and so it was an uh short story that I just wrote. And I thought, oh, I've got those two characters, that were friends with Julio, and that would make like a fun story because he's Russian and blah, 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 blah. And I just imagined it just to be like this very short story in this anthology, and the anthology didn't happen. So I just, expanded it, polished it up, and put that out.
Really cute. It's a really cute story, so I'm glad you did.
Thank you.
Um, so speaking of sad characters having stories, Mrs. Campbell is just too interesting for you not to have cooked up a backstory for her in your mind. Can you share what her backstory is?
Yeah, I mean, obviously she's a former, military badass of some kind. She's gone through a nasty divorce, was married to her job, not her husband, and ended up on this Isle of Canna, just sort of retreating. She's a loner, just retreated out from the world. And, I needed somebody there to be sort of Alessio's buddy, you know, and yeah, I really liked her.
She was very fun.
Thank
She had
you.
fun toys too. So, um, we had a question submitted to us wanting to know if you had ever been to the Mob Museum in Las Vegas.
I have. I have. It's been many, many years, but you better believe I have been there. That was like, I used to go to Vegas all the time, and I dragged a lot of people there. I've also been to the Liberace Museum. So yes, I have been to the Mob Museum.
I didn't even know there was a Liberace Museum.
Yes, there
That on my
is.
bucket list. That sounds quite,
I mean, there was. It's been some time, but
that sounds fabulous, gaudy and glamorous at the same
hmm
time.
yep.
Um, all right. Are there any other genres that you're interested in exploring in the future now that you've found success with this?
I think I have all I can handle. I'm not sure that there might be other like time, I'm not a sci-fi person, I'm not a fantasy person, I'm not a murder mystery person. Um, I I could see myself writing like a different time period in history, like maybe a medieval or, something like that. But I think maybe I would do some kind of different like um, dark romance contemporary strain instead of mafia. It would be something else. But no, pretty full up on I'm pretty full up on genres.
Completely understandable and fair. Um, we are really excited about your newest release, Empire of Temptation. Can you tell everyone about it?
So, so the first series is sort of Canadian women who end up in Italy, and this one I wanted to flip it and bring Italian mobsters to America. And somebody suggested that it should be we I was like, oh, wouldn't mind trying my hand at one, but like mafia small town doesn't make sense. And then I was on a car ride with Sarah McLean and Adriana Herrera, and they plotted the whole thing in like, 5 minutes. They were like, "Oh no, you can do it, and here's how you do it." She's a small town restaurant owner, and he's coming over because he's got to do this. And so they just like we. It was so funny, and so we went back and forth, and it was plotted in a matter of um, a car ride. So then it became like sort of really figuring out how to make it small town, which was the challenge for me. But yeah, that's sort of how that all came to be. Um, so it was important to find like the right small town where you're going to set it. Apparently, like there is a real history of Italian settlements in that area of New York, and so I wanted to make her a restaurant owner, give her like a little world of her own. So um, from there, it was just like pretty easy.
It's awesome. I say it's on my TBR for the end of this month. So I've got like 3 more days.
You can do it.
I know. I was like, I know I can do it. So, um, all right. This is a loaded question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Are we going to see any other releases from either of your alter egos this year?
Yes. So the second book in the New York State of Mafia comes out at the end of June. The next Shoop comes out at the end of August. Um, and I will see if I can get the third New York State of Mafia done by the end of the year. So
You've been busy.
I'm trying. I am trying. So yeah, the Shoop is already up on NetGalley. It's called The Gilded Heiress. It's that's done and dusted. So at this point it's just doing the promotion for it. And I don't know when the second book in that series is scheduled to come out. But so yeah, hopefully 3 releases this year, definitely 2, maybe 3
Okay.
more, I mean.
Along that line, a little bird named Mina told me on Saturday that you'd be in New England this spring for an event as Joanna. But where can readers see Mila this year?
So I'm actually on the same day I'm going to a conference in as Mila in Hartford, which is Kiss and Tail. Um, I normally do a Polycon, but I'm not doing it this year. As Mila, um, I don't know actually. I don't know. Mila, yeah, I'm not doing Steamy Lit. I did Steamy Lit last year, so I've been around at conferences as Mila, but um, just not this year. I'm like taking a break, I think. So
Yeah. Um, I'm gonna take a pause right now for Megan because I see some things in the chat box to see Megan. What do we've got in the chat box?
Oops. Yeah, so a couple. I'm going to start with one that's not actually in there, but one of our Monday night regulars that couldn't make it tonight wanted me to ask. Um, in like, I know there's a lot of reasons authors do discrete covers, but she was just curious, how did the discrete covers for the Kings series sell compared to, I'll call them the man covers, I don't care, or like the people covers. She was
So
just curious.
the people covers are the ebook covers. So if we set that aside and you're comparing only print to print,
Yeah.
I can tell you that the discrete covers sell about 3 times better than the man covers.
So interesting.
Um, I, you know, that I think that's just the way everything is headed right now, unfortunately. I
Yes.
think, I, again, using my daughters as a test case of, one, um, I have shown, she was like, I would never, ever read a book that had a couple like that on the cover. And I, so I don't know what to say. But the discrete covers sell a lot more copies than the people covers.
And then, okay, Asma wants to know, what's your favorite mafia romance series to read?
Well, I love Run Posey Run a whole lot. If we're talking series, it's probably Cora Riley's. I think it's the Chicago Outfit series. I'm not sure. It's Born in Blood, Born in Honor, Born in whatever. I mean, I could just put those right in my veins. I still reread like a few of those on the reg. So yeah, it's probably the Cora Riley, that Bound in Honor, Bound in Blood, Bound in, whatever.
Nice. And then Wesley wants to know if you want to say, and in general, where were you and Sarah and Adriana headed on the plotting car ride?
It was a library event in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, I believe. Yeah, it was like I think it was well, it must have been last summer.
I love that. And then I have a question. So if you've been to events or signings as Joanna and as Mila, are there differences in maybe not reactions, but like demographics? Like
Hmm.
in one where you're there as Mila versus one where you're there as Joanna?
The Mila audience tends to be on the younger end. Shoot a little bit older. Um, the It's hard though because it got to be too confusing to be one person and not the other. Because if I was there as Mila, I mean, I don't know that anybody would recognize Joanna as Mila, but when I was there as Mila, like I got recognized as Joanna, and then it just became too confusing because then people would come up and they'd be like, "Oh my God, wait, you're somebody else. It just was like so." At every conference now, I pretty much will just
Oh, nice.
and like a big conference, like an ApolyCon or a Steamy Lit or whatever. I'll be both because it's just too confusing otherwise. But no, there's not a huge difference in demographic. I can tell you that there's not a lot of crossover from the Mila readers to Joanna, but there's a lot of crossover from Joanna to Mila because I think the historical people are like they read maybe a little more widely than the contemporary mafia readers. They don't seem as willing to try historical. Um, that's, I mean, not that I've pushed it, but it just seems that it's really only goes Joanna to Mila, not really Mila to Joanna. So
Interesting. And that's it, Donna. That's what we
Okay.
had in.
All right. So to wrap up, we wanted to talk instead of doing rapid fire again, because I think we went through most of our rapid fires last time you were here. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit about books and reading. Ozma stole a little bit of my glory with asking the question about Mafia, so we'll skip down to the next one. Is there anything you're reading right now that you're loving and that needs to be added to people's TBRs?
So I should have expected this question and did not. Um, I can tell you that I have Adriana's next book in the Leonis series. Like that's I have to read that ASAP because we're doing an event in February. So that is on my TBR and I need to get to it very soon. I'm very behind in Jessica Kane's oeuvre right now. She's had several releases that I have not read that I need to get to. Liana De La Rosa's most recent release is utterly delightful. I loved that. I cannot remember the Isabella and the Duke, I think. I don't know. I'm terrible. That um I have Elizabeth Hoyt's December release on my TBR that I'm very excited for. I have Loretta Chase's newest release looming that I need to get to. So that's sort of like a taste of what's in my on my Kindle right now.
Yeah, I picked up Loretta's this weekend, which is when I saw Mina. So, um, yeah, yeah, those are all good things. So, um, let's see. That I think was everything we had. Oh, we still have people joining us. All right. Are there,
There was
um,
one more in the chat.
yeah. Sneak peek of what you're currently working on or what's coming up. So we can go back over that if you want to go back over that again. I'm
Sure.
all about
So
self-promotion. Go for it.
right now I'm working on the second book in the New York State of Mafia series, which is Empire of Seduction. Um, two of the people that readers ask me about all the time are Enzo's brothers, Vito D'Agostino and Massimo D'Agostino. And I don't know why, but for some reason in that Mafia Madman book, like readers just really gravitated toward those two. And I get asked all the time, when are they getting their books? And so Empire of Seduction is Vito D'Agostino's book. So he wins the heroine's winery in a poker game and basically shows up like, okay, I'm here. I'm taking this place over. And she's like drop dead, even though they had a one night stand like a couple nights before. So it's real fun. I'm having a lot of fun working on that one. Um, I will need to get started on the second shoot, the follow up to the Gilded Heiress. And so that will sort of probably follow at some point this year. So,
No rest for the wicked.
no, no, sadly.
Okay. With that, I want to thank you again for joining us this evening and thank you for sharing your Mafia universe with us. We've had such a blast. It's been wonderful and we've had so much fun with you tonight. So everyone, I'm going to be posting the recording later this evening. It will be up on our Facebook page and it will also on our link tree where you had the link for coming to this event. I switched that link back over to the recording. So look for it there if you want to go catch the recap on this. And that's what's going on with that. And then next month, we're going to be focusing, instead of having one dedicated book, we're going to be focusing on reading romances written by Black authors and chatting about them during our Monday night chats because diversity is very much under attack right now in the United States. And we've made strides in publishing with diversity. We haven't gone nearly far enough, but there's definitely no room for backsliding there. And the only way that we make sure the publishing houses don't backslide is keeping up demand. And the only way to do that is us to read and talk about it. And so our efforts next month are going to be everyone coming to the table, talking about it, adding to everybody else's TBRs. So, and posting about it. So that's what we're going to be doing on our Monday nights all next month. So to continue to drive diversity in what we read and adding to diversity in our TBRs. So I hope that people will join us on that. So
Thanks for having me.
yeah, so thank you everyone and good night.